Here's sending out an SOS to the last vestiges of freedom, democracy, and the American way of life. Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm a new Californian because California has failed its 40 million people and it's irreparably broken legislatively, judiciously, and financially. The only remedy left is to exercise our rights given to us by Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. By splitting the state, New California will return the U.S. Constitution back to being the supreme law of the land for both states, just as our founding fathers intended. New California will restore our God-given freedoms and liberties by giving the power back to the people that the progressive have been stripping from us for decades by amending the California Constitution over 900 times. Elections will be controlled again by the people, for the people, with one-day voting, paper ballots, hand counting, voter ID, and no machines. The Constitution was written for a time like this. Now it's time to reread it, not change it. I'm committed to New California, and failure is not an option. It's the only way to save my state and my home. I do this for the children, mine and yours.
You won't want to miss the New California State Business Opportunity Summit, September 21st, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Secret Garden in Modesto, California. This is a unique chance to get on the inside track to millions of business opportunities the New California State will provide once statehood is approved for New California by the U.S. Congress. Water, energy, and manufacturing are just a few of many topics to be discussed. Join the rest of the New Californians who are yearning for a great New California state to open a new business. Listen to a strong lineup of motivated business leaders who want to lead New California into business-friendly environment, while New California leaders want to listen to you and understand what you want the New California state government to provide to make your business a success. Go to newcaliforniastate.com and get your tickets for the Modesto New California State Business Opportunity Summit.
Hello, California. It's Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. You know, for the past 30 years, I've been doing everything I could to keep our community safe by arresting criminals and putting them in jail and putting them in prison, keeping them out of our neighborhoods. For the last 5 years, I've been very critical about our governor for slashing our budgets from corrections, for letting prisoners out early, for closing our prisons. I've been critical of our state legislature for passing laws to make it harder to put people in prison. I've been critical for their changing laws that let prisoners out early. And I've been critical for our Attorney General for seemingly not caring about crime and really being an embarrassment to law enforcement. And this love affair that our governor and our state legislature have with criminals is based on the belief that criminals are not responsible for their own actions. They're a victim of society. And really, it's our fault. It's society's fault. It's business's fault. It's cops' fault. It might be my fault. Law enforcement, apparently, if you listen to our governor, is systemically racist. If you listen to our legislature, our laws are systemically racist. Our judicial system is systemically racist. All of these people that are being put in jail are because of law enforcement bias and DA bias and all of these things. And so they let them out. They give them food. They give them housing. They give them money. They give them drugs and alcohol now. And I got to be honest, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. And I'm wondering if I'm having a change of heart and deciding that, you know what, maybe I've been wrong. And I think I'm going to change teams. I know it's going to make some of you angry. I know that you're going to be mad at me, but I'm going to change teams. I think they're onto something, but I don't think they're doing enough. I think that we need to go big. You know me, go big or go home. You're the biggest, you do the best, you're the best at everything, and you might as well do something right if you're going to do it. And I'm all in. And I hope that you're all with me. I hope that you all have this change of heart. You all feel that this is definitely the right thing to do, and you come alongside me in this venture. And I think it's time that instead of letting them out of jail and giving them alcohol and drugs and everything else, I think it's time we put a felon in the White House. Trump 2024, baby. Let's save this country and make America great again.
I do not respect an oath breaker. Anybody who's holding a public office has taken the oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. That does not mean you put how you feel first, how you emotionally react to a tragedy first. Because you think it's better that I will be safer, you abrogate my constitutional rights. That's breaking your oath, and I have no respect for that. I am a mom. And there's only one thing that I'm afraid of, and that's the people in elected office taking away my rights. I'm not afraid of the crook that's going to come to my door, because if my dogs don't get him, I will. And it's my job to defend myself. It's not your job to protect me. It's not your job to defend me. It's your job to protect the Constitution and protect my rights to defend myself.
It's the program that's preparing you for a whole new world. A world where up is down and down is up. And what was wrong is now right. A world that's been fundamentally changed.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
It's a place where you can't believe what you're seeing.
You all have called this the cheap fakes video. The right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem, pushing misinformation, disinformation. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here.
It's a place where you can't believe what you're hearing.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right?
It's time to make right what is wrong. Here's Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
Well, hello and welcome to Agenda 21 Radio. This is the radio show that is stopping totalitarianism, one exceptional American at a time. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, are you that exceptional American? Of course you are. That's why you're listening to this radio show right here, right now on Agenda 21 Radio. Remember to visit our website, a21r.com, and of course, New California State, State of the Future. And what a future that you have here in New California State. We're pushing the limits, of course. We've got about 3 more weeks of this session coming up for the Congress to get together to say, well, maybe we do need that new California state. But we are pressing ahead. There's no question about it. We're going to be back in Congress as early as next week. And we welcome all of your support. And, of course, we definitely welcome your cash support, because we definitely need the money to solve this problem, don't we? To get a new state established and reestablish the constitutional rule of law, which we don't have any longer in California or the rest of the nation. It's pretty obvious. So we're going to be working really, really hard to protect you and protect your rights. And that's what New California State is all about. With us right now is our guest, very special guest. Her name is Audra Morgan, and I hope I got that right. And she's been doing quite a bit of reporting with Chris Strong, and we really support Chris Strong because he's a New Californian. So, Audra, welcome to New California. Well, welcome to that too, but also Agenda 21 Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, tell us what you do, because this is really unique. We've been around the southern border. I used to go down to Mexico all the time, but you've been reporting from the southern border. Are you located down there?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego, and so I've been covering the border all across the border. It's from the city all the way east, almost to Arizona, basically.
So first of all, how did you get yourself into the citizen journalist business? Because that's where you're at.
Well, I was had a radio show prior, and now I have been just independently doing it to bring forward the truth to the people. That's really what my goal was, because I think that, the mainstream, we know the mainstream media is not telling the people the truth. And so I think it's important for us to, bring forward things that they may not be privy to because it's not being shown everywhere. And it's extremely important to be doing this with the border, because there's an invasion happening, and it's something that, I don't think people really recognize. I had to actually see it firsthand to really go, oh my gosh, because I was reporting on it, but it wasn't in my face. And then once I actually physically saw it personally is when when they were trying to hide it is when it really kind of put the fire under me to have this be the focus right now.
So your show is called Eye of the Storm?
Yes, sir.
Good guess.
That's exactly where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're at. Exactly what's happening right now. We're in a storm, and
Yes.
it's kind of hard to get up from. So now, how long have you been in the media?
About almost 3 years.
Okay.
I was trying to get into entertainment when I was younger. I actually am from Colorado, and I moved out to California to be an actress. And then, the Lord took me from that. I did it for quite a while, was able to, I had a movie in theaters and different things like that. But I got sick. I have MS. And so I know the Lord kind of takes us out of things. He allowed me to do it for a little while, and then it was like, okay, you're done. And I'm actually happy to be out of it. But so it kind of gave me some experience in that realm.
Sure.
So it wasn't.
Sure.
Mhm.
We understood the mass media.
Yes.
Yeah, I understood. Well, and that's the key thing, is that a lot of people don't understand how mass media is working on you. We just had a decision, actually, in admission, where Zuckerberg just rolled over and became state's evidence on what was going on with the elections and all the fraudulent behavior that was influencing and so on, Facebook and influencing so many voters. So that's called mass media. A lot of people don't understand. That's really mass media. It's very subliminal. You don't get
That's
it.
right.
But the mass media that we're talking about is the stuff that's really right in your face. And I know that we have a lot of citizen journalists now. In fact, almost my show is almost completely sourced from citizen journalists that I trust, and sometimes some mainstream journalists. And when they call me, they go, Paul, sometimes they're asking me for advice.
Right.
Paul, did this really happen? Yes, it did. And so you were kind of in that world where the mainstream media just really doesn't have a clue, and they're clueless, and they're not reporting the truth at all. And that's why we get what you're so critical about right now, especially in San Diego. It's really important. We're focusing on San Diego more and more right now. We did have a caller on our public conference call last night from San Diego, who was lamenting about the illegal foreign nationals coming across the border. And we've been talking about it. We've pointed it out in some of our presentations at the state capitol over the last several months, how open it is. But give the people a feel for what's happening right now today, because everything's supposed to be closed down and good as far as Gavin Newsom's concerned. He brought in 400 National Guard, he said. Do you see them down there?
No, not the ones from California. You'll see ones from New York or Iowa, different, and they're just supposed to sit on the border and report back. They can't do anything. They're just supposed to watch and report, but I haven't found any from California. So that was interesting to have him say that, because, that's what they want to say, is the border secure, that there's nothing going on. But what's happening is they're actually just shifting and moving around where they're actually coming in, because there were main locations that you could just always count on. They're going to be there. There's going to be, hundreds to 1,000 people that are waiting for Border Patrol. And now through trying to kind of hide it and obfuscate what's going on, they are just shifting to places where you're like, I didn't even know they were crossing here. But they are. And it's, but that way it makes it look as though it's kind of slowed down.
Problem. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it hasn't slowed down at all. That I was kind of guessing about, because I did see a couple of reports just the other day about that same problem. Who was it? Yakumba. Yeah, thank you. I've been there years ago. Isn't there a hot springs or something like that? I mean,
There
this
is.
this is a long time ago. I used to hang out in Mexico and all that other stuff. I lived in Orange County, so it was kind of cross border and all that.
Right.
Going to Tijuana meant something then.
Yeah, right.
Now
Right.
it means something different.
Yeah.
I actually did a lot of missionary work down there in the 90s, but stopped. My group out of Yorba Linda, California, we stopped because of the cartels.
Right.
And that was in the 90s. When the guys show up with the AK-47s and you're doing missionary work, that's probably not in the plan.
No.
So we stopped doing it. And but we saw the threat. It was getting more threatening every year. But now cartels run the border, don't they?
That's right. Yep. And they're working. And the sad thing is there's a lot of coordination between our side and their side. There's NGOs that, get information from them in order to direct them. So everything is being directed. It's not like, oh, they just like showed up here. That's just so weird, And so the NGOs will even tell them like which direction to go when they come here. They'll work with coyotes that come across and kind of say, go to this side or go to that side. And so Border Patrol is kind of just having to go and find out where they're at. It's not, it's very, like I said, well orchestrated, which is very disturbing because, to know that it's not something that, because people just, they're just seeking asylum. Well, then why do they have all this paperwork that they're getting along the way that will even say these main camps, like go here. If you have any trouble, call 911. So it's why would you have all these documents printed out like that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like telling them and directing them if that wasn't the case.
Now, are you familiar with Michael Young and his work?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever talked to him or interviewed him?
I haven't, but I would love to. Yeah.
Well, I can hook you up. He's a very good friend.
Please. Yes.
And so we've been back and forth. I think right now he's still in Okinawa. So you have to figure out the time lag, and we didn't figure it out the other day, quite frankly. But he's all around the world, but he can really assist in what you're doing because he's been down there, all the way around from the Darien Gap, even into Colombia and beyond, and sees what goes on in Venezuela or from Venezuela. We're getting Venezuelans into mostly Denver, the Colorado area. Have you seen Venezuelans coming across the southern border in California?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So they're coming from here and then they just get shipped out there.
Okay. So that's the routine. Those are the ones going to the airport.
Yeah. I mean, they're taking, they come in and cross the border, they get picked up by Border Patrol, they go get processed. And then not everybody, but some of them will get a hotel stay. And then they get rides to the airport. Otherwise, I mean, the ones that, just the single adult male or females, they used to be dropped off at an Iris Transit Center. It was just a transit center where they could take the trolley to a shuttle bus that would take them to the airport. They also had at one point charter buses that were picking them up. They've since stopped dropping them off on the street like that and are using one of the hotels that they were using just to house like families and special interest individuals. So they're even trying to hide it in that way. That's what actually got me to wanting to cover it more, was seeing how much they were trying to hide it. And I'm like, if you're doing this for, the greater good and for humanity, why are you trying to be so secretive? Yeah. And so that's what they do is you can even change up their operation because, if a bus is coming into the hotel, I already know their operation. It's not like, I've already privy to where you came from, where you're going from here, but they'll tell a bus to like drive around. Just keep going. Like, don't pull in here. Well, why not? I mean, just do your business, but when you're trying to do stuff like that, it just makes me go, well, now I need to show the people what's really happening because we're paying for it.
So basically they find out you're there staking the place out, and then the bus pulls up or it doesn't show up because they've already gotten the word that you're there with a camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they just what's the word? They just orbit basically.
Yeah.
Drive around the neighborhood, right?
Well, it's weird. Sorry. Yeah, but what they'll do is they'll like drive around for a minute and then kind of come in anyway. So I'm like, you just make yourself look suspicious by doing all of that extra stuff when you could have just pulled in there, or they won't pull out, like, or they won't put people on the bus. And I'm thinking, well, then I'll wait here until you do. And so eventually they have to, because these people are going to be going and getting on an airplane per se, once they're being picked up from the hotel.
They have to make the plane.
Yeah, and one of the hotels, there's 2 hotels here that they're using. One of them is for the special interests, and then the street drop-offs, which the street drop-offs don't necessarily stay at the hotel. They're just being used. That hotel's just being used to kind of, they can wait there and wait for a bus, or there's taxis outside. But this other one, there's a shelter. It's run by Jewish Family Services. It's 4902 Pacific Highway. It's an old CHP Border Protection Division unit. That's where the CBP One app individuals come in. So these are individuals that come to the border, to the port of entry, have an appointment through the app, and then get processed there. And they can leave right after that. Like, they don't even have to take the bus, but if they choose, then they can go ahead and get the perks of taking the charter bus to this location, which was the old CHP office. And then from there, they go to the Jewish Family Services run 4 Points Hotel, which is just not even a mile away. And they stay there at the hotel. They can only stay for a day, but then they'll have the charter bus take them to the airport, which once they get to the airport, they don't even need an ID. They can just, they have their picture taken, and they have a special line, which when you're there at the airport, over the intercom and on the signs, it says, you need an ID to travel.
Right. I know. Yeah. No,
not them.
I've flown in and out of San Diego, and when they started coming about a year ago in full force, and saw that little gig. But before that, I flew into O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and saw that mess. And now, are you familiar with Ben Bergquam?
Yes.
Okay. He started out as a New Californian with us. Okay. So he's like, one of us.
I didn't know that.
He had an attitude. He was going to do what he's doing. God had him on a mission. There's no question about it. No question about it. And look at him now,
Right.
And we're all very proud of Ben. He's kind of like the guy that we're really proud about. But he's a New Californian. This is the attitude of New Californians of Ben Bergquam. He's emblematic of that. So when I was there, I was speaking I was a guest speaker as a keynote speaker for the new Illinois movement. And so I landed there. But one of the things that really ticked me off is I was flying out of Sacramento. You see the exceptional, treatment that these people get. They don't get searched. They have their paperwork. They don't get searched. They go skirt along the side of the search area, and then they line up, and they're first in line.
Yeah.
Before everybody else, and then they get on. And I saw this repeatedly when I got off the aircraft or I got back on the aircraft at O'Hare again. But what really caught my eye was they had a living space inside the terminal. Right. That was huge, absolutely a monster. It was all blocked off by a big black curtain. I'll never forget that. I started walking the first 50 feet. I'm going, there's something different here. And I looked, you could see through the curtain. You could see there's people in there. And that's where they were storing them. They were storing them in various places, hangars, but there were hundreds of thousands of them being stored. And now they've moved them off into hotels.
Right.
And now they're having big time problems. But do you foresee that there's going to be these kind of problems in San Diego?
Yeah, well, we've already had, actually just yesterday, there was a group of illegals that tried to, this is a little different, but to hijack 2 school buses that were full of kids.
The big yellow ones with kids.
Yeah.
What were they going to do with the kids?
Right. Who knows? I mean, you kick them off. I'm not sure.
No. To me, they're going to traffic the kids, sell them.
You mean our children, or the kids that come across?
The kids in the bus.
Right. Well, like that. Yeah. I mean, that's what they want to do. I mean, that's one of the major problems, but I don't know that the illegals would be the ones to traffic them. Do you know what I mean? But the kids that do come across with the illegals, they are definitely being trafficked. Yeah. The unaccompanied minors, they have a whole program for that. That's what's so sad, is that they have all of these programs and things in place for these people to come and just have carte blanche of everything. Right. So they get, they can get $150,000 potentially. I mean, it still needs to be fully passed, but $150,000 loan or 0 interest loans to get a home. Well, people here have been waiting for decades just to be able to get what they need. These people get refugee cash assistance checks. Like the Catholic Charities is like the Jewish Family Services and the Catholic Charities are the main NGOs here that are facilitating this. There's other ones that are smaller that help, but they're the problem because they're, you know, and they try and hide them. So I went to where they give them cash assistance checks, and they're like, you know, we're trying to protect their privacy. We don't want to freak them out. So if you can't, just try not to film them, stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, what if I'm freaked out? You're having these people come. I don't know where they're from. I mean, we found, you know, I found a dog tag from a Muslim soldier in San Diego at San Ysidro, where they're coming across at the wall. It was just dropped there. And, you know, I have another reporter friend who found a passport from a terrorist on the watch list. So, you know, it's a problem. These people who are coming in, people think that it's, you know, just benevolent and everything is fine. It's like, no, these people, a lot of them do have a nefarious agenda. Other ones are just kind of being exploited and told a lie so that they come in and just want to get all the benefits and perks. Because if you're incentivizing it in that way, why wouldn't they come?
Right.
You know, why would they not? I mean, it's insane.
Well,
I've even met people. Go ahead.
The thing that I was getting to with the school buses, though, is because my experience, I was trained by the LA Police Department's Crimes Against Children's Task Force in 1986, and took all the training and got involved with trafficking and how it was being done then. And of course, what was going on in Hollywood, that was the big scene, of course, with the trafficking. But then that's now a different picture. And I still have been involved even to this day to some degree. I try to back out of it because it's really stressful. I mean, that whole job, but we're looking into all the child sex trafficking in particular from San Ysidro, in which they have a culling out of the kids from the families. And of course, the cartel bringing the kids right over across the border, in particular, the Guatemalan children. That's a big interest right now. But so one of the things that really struck a chord was a couple of years ago, they had 5 buses coming from San Ysidro up to the Fairplex in Los Angeles County, which is the LA County Fairgrounds, is what it is in Pomona. And 5 buses show up, and they sussed out the children. And the adults took the first 3 buses, and in the back 2 buses were, you know, the children, about 200 children. Well, when they got to the Fairplex, the 3 buses emptied out, and the 2 buses were empty already. The children were gone, never to be found. And that's why I was wondering, I thought, you know, it's not too far beyond the imagination. How old were these kids in the bus?
I'm not sure what age, but I would assume elementary to, you know, maybe middle school. But it's, you know, and that's what's scary is like, how do you want your child's bus to be hijacked by a bunch of illegals who you don't know who they are, and why would they do that? Because they're trying to evade processing.
Well, it's not only that, but my point is, I'm a former school superintendent, by the way. So this is like red flag. But I'm sitting here, you can see where I'm going with this. If they're this bold to get on the bus to take the bus, they're taking that bus to some place to force those kids off to be trafficked. That's my logical process right here. And this is a big step function increase in behavior if that is in fact the case. Right. So that's to me is a real red flag. I'm going to keep looking into this. We have an overflow. What's going on in the marketplace for children right now? We have a glut of children on the market. And so they're really trying to push it off into the foster care families. The sad thing is some of them are being used for organ transplants. That's the other part of it. And I'm sure you're probably aware of the hearing that Grassley had about a month ago with people talking about the Fairplex and all that other stuff. But I'm very well aware of what goes on at the Fairplex and with the child trafficking. And we have been telling people that this is nothing more, this whole trafficking, nothing more than slavery. The state of California and the U.S. government are engaged in slavery, plain and simple. Not any different from the Civil War. It's just you're now dealing with kids of all color, and you're dealing with parents of all color. They're just being used as slaves at this point. So what about the Chinese influence?
There's a lot of them coming, and they act different. The funny thing is, a lot of these people act like they don't speak English. Many of them do. They understand what you're saying, but they want to hide themselves. They're not happy that you are filming them. I've even seen one of their fake passports that they tried to create. Wasn't a very good job. It was like a really bad version of it. But so, you know, they try and, you know, just come in they come in at different spots. There's one place in Jacumba where it was like really heavily Chinese, but then there'll also be people from other places like Guatemala or Venezuela or what have you. But it was like a place where a lot of documents that I was finding, child birth certificates, child IDs, different things like that. And so that's kind of scary because they're the ones a lot of the times that are trying to break into the military bases and potentially affect the infrastructure that we have. But there's a lot of them coming across. But the thing is like they'll come in groups, like there'll be a bunch of Chinese, and then there'll be some other ones mixed in, but there'll be like groups from different countries that are coming over at the same time. And they're not necessarily together, but they travel together to the border.
I just wanted to say, what level of organization do they have coming across? Are they highly organized as one ethnic or racial group?
Yeah, somewhat. It's like that, there's times where people have gotten separated and then the group will kind of come back together. But for the most part, they want to stay together to make sure that they make it here across the border. So that's why you'll see bigger groups. But they're also, working with the coyotes and the cartel to bring them at certain times, and all together like that.
So this is in terms of, I was looking at the sophistication, the level of sophistication. There seems to be a lot of self-regulation in the sense that they stay together as larger groups, probably for safety reasons.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And just because, they look out for each other. Like, someone will kind of have to be stopped back a ways. Like sometimes they'll just leave them there if they can't go any further. But many times they'll try and help whoever it is has had to stop and maybe was injured or something like that. So they do. It seems that they're, kind of doing that group where it's like you're taking care of each other, making sure that everybody's coming. But then you have the nefarious people where they don't care and they want to just leave them behind. So it just depends on kind of what their reason is for coming. If they're coming and they just potentially want a better life, you see those. They're going to be more caring about the people. Whereas, if they're not going to really care who they're with or want to actually stay with the group. They might kind of stagger back a little bit, and they act different.
So where is law enforcement, and particularly the sheriff of San Diego County? Where is he in all this? I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah, we got a new one, Kelly Martinez. Yeah, she's nowhere to be found. Because we have the Truth Act, it is regarding not sharing information of ICE documentation with people. In fact, we've had a 5-year-old little girl who was raped by an illegal who was 21 years old, and they refused to share his information because with this Truth Act, it's like they have to keep it secret. And that's the problem, is that they're, now perpetuating the problem by not acknowledging that there is this kind of stuff going on. That's why they call them migrants and stuff like that. But you don't hear Kelly ever talking about it. She's not down there. They're always told like, that's not our jurisdiction type of a thing. We can't do anything about it. So, it's sad to know that we even have like a bunch of military around us and we're just kind of like, what do we do? It's the people that are really bringing light to it. They're not doing anything about it. But they want to put more surveillance and things like that. It's just, they can put that on the border and see who's coming across, but that's not the name of their game, And so it's pretty sad to know that she's not willing to do anything, especially with all the children that come across. But we just had a few years ago in 2021, there was a few thousand children that were at a convention center down here in San Diego that were the unaccompanied minors that were being housed there. It was a very short time. It was just like over a month. Yeah. But all of a sudden they say, we found their sponsors. And so they're off to their destination. And I'm thinking, that can't happen in a month with thousands of kids. You can't even do that with one child. Our foster care and CPS and, HHS are the ones that traffic our American children on a daily basis. And so now they've added more children to that. They have the foster care system that they have just for these children. And there's 2 locations where they're a shelter or home where they can transition them, but sometimes in San Diego, but sometimes they'll take them from other states and bring them here. So it's very disturbing to know what happens, that that little girl could be raped, and they don't want to, it's like they're protecting these people. These people are our replacement. So they're getting all of the perks and the protection that we should be getting. We should be protecting our border. We shouldn't be putting, a children in danger, or anybody for that matter. So it's hard to watch. It's hard to cover. It's like emotionally disturbing to me, but that's why I continue to do it. So I wish we had a sheriff that was, willing to stand in the gap, but we don't.
So, what are I'm going to go to the county supervisors. What's their role in all this, and how? Well, I can gather that some of them are really touched by the cartels, because, quite frankly, if they won an election, they're probably touched by the cartels and the circus, I guess, the plaza system for selecting people to be in county supervisor seats, and any elected official, any election. You always get the selections, and I'm sure several of them have been touched by that.
Yes. Well, our chair, Nora Vargas, is actually from Tijuana. So she wants the open border. She's like, calls us xenophobic, tries to, demonize us for bringing light to it. But I'm like, you know what goes on there. The cartels and how, you're very privy to. It's not like you're ignorant of it, but she wants the whole United Nations Agenda 21 open borders, right? Where it's like Mexico, and that's what we get with the compact, the global compact that was signed, and that what they're going under. So they don't, they look at you like you're crazy. And that's when I try and bring up, the 5-year-old girl that was raped, because it's like, well, what has to happen in order for it to matter? Even the children that are coming across, you realize that they, are used as sex slaves. You understand that these women are being raped along the way. They have rape tree trophies, that they set up, they put their underwear up, and it's like, they're all happy about it. So it's very disturbing to see that they don't care. You have Jim Desmond, who, will kind of say stuff about it and kind of go against it. But at the same time, we spend $5 million a year on their criminal defense. And then he voted for that. So I'm like, you should have not voted for that. But it was attached into the whole budget. And I thought, well, then don't vote on the budget at all. With anything that is going to come forward to help facilitate this more, don't vote no. So you can show the people where you stand. But instead, it's like everyone always just wants to say it's the federal government's fault. It's like we should have a militia on the border. We should be doing everything that we can to protect it. But as you can see, when they talk about protecting our border, basically all they're doing is throwing more money at it to facilitate more of it.
Yeah,
by giving them the hotels, the shelter and services programs. Yeah,
they're facilitating it, is what they're doing, and that's clearly against the Constitution. But Mayorkas would tell you that he's doing his job.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Like, we're doing our job. It's like, no, you're not. Even Border Patrol knows that they're not doing their job. They're doing the opposite of what they were trained to do. It's like they were supposed to deport them and send them away. Now they're just like releasing criminals, rapists, murderers onto the streets. And that's a really hard thing for them to reconcile with, because if they know, and even the unaccompanied minors, they're like, we have to, like, we're trafficking them. And that's part of the problem too, is like, you want them to stop and get out of it, but we also still need these people to be processed. So I appreciate that they're doing that. It's just, it's unfortunate that they are up against a wall. Many of them are trying to, or need to retire soon. And so they don't want to lose their, their retirement. And so I just feel bad for them. But there are some people that actually like to do it. I think there's a lot of nefarious Border Patrol, and it's not all of them. But some of them do work with the cartel. Some of them are, getting kickbacks. So it's like, money makes the world go round. So it's the root of all evil. And it is doing some very evil things, especially when, you have Border Patrol agents that are taking thousands of children to one sponsor. What?
Yeah, that's called a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they know that, but they're just like, we're still doing it. And it's like, I don't understand that. Now, unless you're going to do it to expose it, but.
Is it a sponsor such as Catholic Charities?
Well, they can be, but no, it's more of like an individual.
Yeah, individual. That was the next question. That came up in the hearing, and I've known about this. I've been following it for years and kind of understand it, but now it's just so flagrant. It's to me, it's just unbelievable that we're even remotely. I stood on the steps of the Capitol denouncing the people inside that this was being allowed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's been going on in California for a long time. I didn't know anything about it until '86, and all of a sudden, it tells you how old I am. But I'm retired, but I'm still dealing with it because
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the people who have knowledge of it, and so I can help people at times. But I took these people to task. There's not one person in the state capitol, but maybe one now. That's Shannon Grove out of Bakersfield, who's doing anything to stop this.
Right.
Not one, but Shannon Grove. To me, it's just an obscenity that we have these people up there, 120 legislators and a governor, who are doing nothing but openly encouraging it by doing
Yes.
that.
Right. Yeah. Or just trying to vie for the money to get it. I mean, the state pays for the hotels. The state owns the property where the old CHP office was, and they basically deemed it surplus land. So they went through a lot of hoops in order to deem it surplus land, and then say the best interest of the state was to use it for migrants. And I'm like, how's that in the best interest of the state? They were talking about bringing affordable housing there, but it's like, that's not a place where you put affordable housing. So as soon as the city didn't want to use it for that, they're like, okay, well then we're going to go open for bid. And then the Jewish Family Services comes in, and it's like Sarah Jacobs, like her family is the Jewish Family Services, and she's the one trying to get money while she's in Congress. So it's like, what is happening here? And your family gets the kickbacks. It's all about money too. If you think about it, like these NGOs don't really care about these people. They care about the money that goes in their pocket. So everyone that they actually help, they get paid for. So if they're saying, well, we helped 50 people today and we did this or that, we're going to need more money. That's how it keeps coming in. But it doesn't mean that they're providing them with anything extraordinary. You know what I mean? It might be a cup of noodles, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, it was $10 a person to feed them, and it's just, right. But they actually treat us bad when they're reporting. I mean, I've had one try and, turn her car at me and pretend she was going to run me over. And I'm thinking, okay, keep doing that, because I'm going to document this. And that's attempted murder, what you're doing. But they'll tell these illegals not to talk to us. Like, I'll have talked to them. They'll come in. Everything is fine. They're excited to share their story. And then as soon as the NGO gets to them, they look at me like I just, was trying to steal their child. And I'm all, well, that's weird. You're sowing discord with these people, which isn't good, because you're trying to make them believe that we're out for no good. I'm just here to share the truth. And they'll make them put on, not make them, but give them masks to put on. That's another thing. Like, masks have become, I call it, it's like they caught treason. I mean, because they're just sitting there trying to cover their face and hide it. And it's like, why? And then take pictures of you. They have this whole MO to deal with the people. They're like, they might be white nationalists, like these anti-migrant reporters. And so when you encounter them, do this, like take their picture, don't engage, tell the illegals they said, tell the migrants not to talk to them. So many different things. And I'm just thinking, wow, you guys have had this so well thought out and planned that you even want to make it as though we're the bad guys. When I'm like, you're the one getting money off of them. Every person you see, you get paid for. So they should be knowing that. So I would tell the migrants that's what's happening. Like, the person telling you not to talk to me is actually making money off of you.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. They've got everything detailed to the max. Everything.
That's right.
They've spent a lot of time sorting through, many years, I suspect, and then training people. That's the other thing. How many years of the training? How many years before this events has training been taking place for all these people with all these NGOs that are out there? One of the big NGOs is Cherokee. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't.
Cherokee NGO. It's sort of an overarching one that is found in mostly in the north. I've been hearing about that, but that's the one that was the one that was actually featured in the roundtable that they had in Congress with Grassley last month.
Right.
And but they haven't had too much of an influence in Southern California, at least I'm aware of.
Correct.
But cartels are still big with the other, other NGOs such as Catholic Charities, which is just a monster now. It's turned into just something else. The multiple billions of dollars that it's been getting since they started running their caravans and things of that nature. Of course, now a caravan is really a 20, 30, 40, 100,000 people at one time coming across the border. It's just absolutely outrageous. So you're Sarah Jacobs. What district is she? The district 40 or 51 or 52.
Shoot, I'm not something like that. Yeah, I'm not positive on that. But I know when the Jewish Family Services was getting ready to get the SSP funds from and different things like that, they were the ones that were, she was the one, with others as well. But I'm thinking, well, that goes to your family. Like that should be a conflict of interest because of that. And so, it's just interesting to see where these people are at. And I'm thinking, do you understand what you're doing? I mean, they fully do. They know exactly what they're doing. And the Catholic Charities actually here in San Diego has filed for bankruptcy. They got the most money from FEMA out of anybody in the United States last year, 75 million. And it's like, what is going on here? Because at that time, we weren't the main hub like we are now. So why would they have gotten that money? And they filed for bankruptcy due to pedophilia and having to pay off their victims. So you can't even that's the way they hide their money. Right. So I had to find out through FEMA, oh, they're getting the money here because when you file for bankruptcy like that, that's nobody can see your financials. And so that's intentional. And it's very sad because it's our money. They don't want us to know about it or where it goes. We can't ask questions. And they're doing it under the guise of religion and, acting like this is what God would want. And I don't, it's very sad to see that that's what they're using, because then it makes people believe what they're doing is good and not nefarious. But what they're doing is completely nefarious. They're trying to, they hire security at their places that are very violent with the people. I've had them actually invite me in past the gate and then forcibly push me out after inviting me in. So, and it's two men. I had one of the men tell me that he could beat the poo out of me and I couldn't do anything about it. And it's like, I have a cane because I was assaulted by the sheriff, but he is a grown man saying that and then saying that, he's doing this because that's what God wants him to do. And I'm like, God would not want you to beat up a woman and even do what you're doing here because you're aiding and abetting this. But these people, everyone says they're now Americans, that they are Americans once they cross into America. And so they think what's wrong with that? They're like, they didn't do anything illegal, even though they committed a federal offense. Like if I went into Mexico and they caught me, they're going to deport me and I'm going to be charged federally and be held in prison. And it's like, these people can do the same exact thing and they get all these perks. So why would it stop? If they know, because I've even met some people, these guys from Ghana, had a bunch of money, spent $10,000, $15,000 to get here, said there's no problem with money. Like they have plenty of it, but one of them wanted to go stay in a shelter in New York. For what? Who knows? But that's what it's like. Why would you want to leave your country, especially if you have a bunch of money, to just go right off the coattails of the people and we pay for it? And there's been people though that I met who said, well, because I'll ask them, who do you think is paying for this? And some of them will say they don't know. And then I'll tell them that it's us. And they'll say, well, okay, well, then I'd like to pay taxes to kind of give back. I mean, that was just two men that were saying that. But, for the most part, these people, they're coming in and they know that everything is going to be given to them on a silver platter. They're not going to have to worry about where to get food. They're going to get 3 meals a day. All while the homeless that have been suffering for decades are just kind of being pushed to the side. Like they're getting into the front of the line and they know it. That's the thing is, I met one of the gentlemen who runs the soft-sided facility where they get processed. And he was saying that, they know that they have it better than us. And they're okay with that. They're very content. And so because they know that, they act like it. They act like they're superior. And that's a problem because, that's where I feel like something bad can happen because they're going to be pitting us against each other. These people are getting everything that they need while our communities are suffering. And when you know that you're being replaced, it's like, that's going to cause discord and people are going to have to start fighting for what they want. And I do believe that these illegals will actually fight harder and more intensely than our own, because if they don't have something, they're going to stand up and try and get it. Whereas, people in our communities are kind of just, I don't know, they're allowing it to happen, which is also sad. But there's a lot of illegals in San Diego. And that's one thing that I found is that trying to convince people or show them what's happening, which I've been doing these border tours. I call them border machine tours, taking people to these locations that they're at. In fact, I'm having one on Saturday and going to Hakumba, but I think seeing it firsthand allows people to kind of see, and it hits home.
Now,
Whereas,
how does that work with your tour? You organize it, you get a bunch of people together. Tell us how that works.
Yeah. So like the first one I did, I was like, I'm going to take them to the hotels where they're being staying at. So we'll meet down the street. And then we did a march there and stayed outside the hotels and did kind of like a little bit of a protest, what have you. And it was really enlightening. People really liked it. So then after that, I've gone to other locations where, and I've done a repeat of one of them, just going to the hotel. But just, it's really just showing the people firsthand, you know, what happened. So I took them to the port of entry, and we were able to see a bus pick up a bunch of the illegals that had just been processed. And then we went to the the border wall, which is literally like just 2 miles outside of that, and saw a family there that had just crossed. So, you know, it's giving people the experience, and even going to the Iris Transit Center where they used to do, I mean, sometimes there would be 20 buses coming that day and just dropping droves of people off in the streets. So, and when you were asking about the Chinese, that's one thing, is that at the Iris Transit Center, there's a group, it's like a mafia of the Chinese that would go, they traffic the people also from those locations up north to other states as well. And but they would sell cigarettes and SIM cards. They would also sell exchange money, but kind of screw the people over because they're doing it at a higher exchange rate.
Right.
They'd offer them food, but they did not like they're very nefarious as well. I mean, because they don't want to be filmed. They would, you know, talk to me like that, like I shouldn't be there doing that. And I'm thinking, I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. But like, that's what they want, is to have people be afraid and, you know, not really
intimidate.
Yeah. And so that's interesting to see, is that it actually, and they're probably illegals, you know what I mean, that are doing it. That, I mean, because who knows, but you know, no, the police don't stop that. They just encourage it. Now they're outside of the Ramada because the street drop-offs go there. And so they wait there in their van all hours of the day. And it's like, that's just interesting.
Once they're at the Ramada, how long is their stay? And the Ramada only has a few rooms. It doesn't, by comparison of what the hordes are of people that are out there.
Correct. Right. So it's 24 hours and they can't leave their room. They're actually told to stay in the room, and they get meals brought to them. And then at whatever time the next day, they'll get on a charter bus and then go to the airport. And the Catholic Charities is the ones that help them there. And like I said, the Jewish Family Services runs the other one, but they run the CBP One App ones. And so they have like escorts and chauffeurs that take them to the airport, and these escorts will come out and help them along the way. They give them folders with all their information, and then they direct them to where they need to go at the airport. And you can always pick them out because they have like this specific radio that they use. And so they look different. Sometimes they'll have a vest, but it's funny because when you engage with them, they don't like it. And I'm thinking, why not just be transparent? Like when I saw them at the port of entry, when we were doing one of the tours, I went up to the bus driver and I was like, what time are you going to pick them up? Because I saw the people lining up, and I thought, I'm just going to ask him if he knows. And he's like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, you know, the CBP One App. He's like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm like, you're not. And I said, you work for Damaris, right? And he goes, no. And I'm like, that's weird. What does this bus say right here? And so he's trying to hide. And then I turn around and there's the Jewish Family Services people that are like, can we help you? And I said, I'm just wondering when you're going to pick him up. And he's like, oh, and he tries to brush me off. And I said, because you're going to bring him to the 4902 Pacific Highway location, right? And they just got to keep walking. I'm like, I already know your operation. Like, there's nothing that you're hiding from me. I'm just seeing if you're going to be transparent about it. And the fact that you're not really bothers me, because before they were dropping them off at Iris Transit, they had a transfer site, which the county just got $19.6 million to open up another one. They were using $6 million of ARPA funds before, which went to SBCS, which is South Bay Community Services. And they took $2 million of that and gave it to their employees. So they took a third of the money to give to their employees while there was like just a little over 4 million left. And that only lasted just over 4 months. So they're wasting the money, and it's very disturbing to see that that's what's going on, because, you know, it's just going into the pockets of the higher echelons of the, right, and the CEOs. Right. But so the Catholic Charities, the county got this 6 million. They opened that up, then they closed it, then they started doing the Iris Transit drop-offs again. Now that they're looking for a new place for a more permanent transfer center, the fact that they're dropping those people off at the Catholic Charities Ramada,
Yep.
I believe that they're going to try and get that 19.6, because they also got 19.6 Catholic Charities did for the SSP program, the Shelter and Services program. But if they can offer this other service for these individuals that would normally potentially be dropped off on the street, then they can get that 19.6 million and, just have them, bring them there. But I'm not positive. I'm still waiting for that. But it's just like, that's all that happens is more and more. I mean,
it's just more and more and more.
Yeah. And it's tens of thousands for each hotel a day. And it's like, and that's coming down from the state. Actually, the public health is paying for that. And I'm thinking, wow. And then it's really hard to get records from them because they want to say, well, what information did you necessarily want? Like, do you want per day, like how long it's been? And so I'm still waiting for some records from the state of California regarding that.
Now, this has got to be the last question because we've got to run for time. But what about the state of Cal? Are they cooperating with you on your requests? You're obviously doing FOIA requests. Are they cooperating with you?
That's what I'm saying. No, they're trying to take a very long time. And just when it's simple, just tell me how much you've spent on these hotels over the last 3 or 4 years.
You're not doing anything. Yeah.
And they're like, well, so do you want, and that's what they always do. Anytime you ask for information that they don't want to share. I mean, it took them 4 months or more, like how long to get the breakdown from the transfer site with SBCS, which got the 6 million. And then it was just barely even a breakdown. It was 4 pieces of paper. And they kept going, well, we have to search for this documents, making excuses. I'm thinking, you should have it because you gave them that money. There's no oversight. And that's the problem. That's why they use these NGOs. Yeah,
well, one of the things that we're finding on our FOIA requests, because we make a lot of them, is that they're really dragging their feet on a lot of things. Now, if we do this at the state level, we do this at the local county level, they're really pretty cooperative still, especially in the rural areas. Those that are kind of urbanized are a little bit, they're touchy about it, just like you were talking about. And this seems to be it's permeated all throughout the state of California because they're hiding something, and they're hiding the children. They're hiding evil is what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how comfortable can they be in their skin, right? Hiding evil like this at this level, and you see it all the time. We see it all the time, and it's not even hiding in plain sight anymore. It's just in plain sight. Yes. It's out and about, and I think that's really what they're trying to do is normus to this. One of the big things we have up here in this area is we have housing tracts being made that have 4 or have 5 and 6 bedrooms with 3 and 4 bathrooms. Well, and of course they fill them up with foster children. 12 per house or 10 per house, but they fill them up, and the person gets $500 per kid, and they can get on special education disabilities, and then for every disability get another $500 per month per child. That's the part of it.
All about the money.
All about money. Listen, tell us, Audra, tell us about how we can get a hold of you, because we got to run for time. This has just been fascinating. Got to have you on more often.
I would love it. Yeah.
We got to get the San Diego thing going for New California at the border, and we're trying to build up a group of people that we can rely on for solid information at the border. So tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Yeah, and I'd love to have you on my show. So we'll have to
set that up.
Let
me know. Yeah, let me know.
So you can follow me on X or Twitter at Eye of the Storm. It's EYEOFTHESTORM and then SD at the end. On Rumble, my channel is Eye of the Storm. On Facebook, it's you can either go to Drudge Morgan, which is DRAJ Morgan, or even just Eye of the Storm or Audra AM. I don't know, whatever, but it's Eye of the Storm as well on Instagram. But yeah, mostly a lot of stuff you'll find on X, because there's I'm doing more kind of posting on there, but people are really liking it. So it's been good. And then you can also, if you wanted to email me, you could email me at audra.eyeofthestorm@proton.me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Just Audra Morgan, keep up the great work. You're a great patriot, and We really will be doing a lot of praying for you and supporting you in any way we possibly can, and with Agenda 21 Radio and, of course, New California State. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Okay, so now you're getting a feel for what's going on in Southern California, even more so, and a pretty intense one by Audra there. Great reporting. Thanks for listening to Agenda 21 Radio. Remember to donate to New California State. We need the donations. And stay strong, America. Stay strong. We are exceptional America.